بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
What does Islam tell us about marrying girls from other religions? What if I meet a Hindu Christian girl who meets the requirement of inner beauty, but not religion? The answer to that is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it permissible to marry from the people of the book, meaning the Christians and the Jews. Are the people of the book today still, are Christians and Jews today still under the category of people of the book? Yes. Okay? They still are. I don't believe it's a valid argument to say that they're not the people of the book anymore. Right? So it's permissible to marry with some conditions and things of that sort. Do I recommend it? No. And that's not because that's not out of denouncing the religion of the Christians and the Jews or denouncing anyone's religion or things of that sort. But, it's because religion is such a big part of our lives. Whether it's a Christian marrying a Jew, right? Interreligious marriages usually do not work. They have a very, very, very rough time working. Whether it's Muslim and Christian, or Christian and Jew, and Hindu and Buddhist, well, that might work. But it's subhanAllah, usually, when you have religions, especially if you don't feel the effect, when you first get married, you feel the effect when you have children, things of that sort. So religion is a very important part of our lives, so it's permissible. I personally, I'm being very honest with you, I have rarely, and actually when I say rarely, me personally, in my message, I've never seen it work. I can't even think of one that really worked well, right? Maybe some that stayed together for the kids, but where they were really happy with each other. Especially because usually what happens when a Muslim and a Christian, or when people from different religions get married, is that both of those people, or one of them at least, is not really that practicing. So if that person has a spiritual awakening sometime in their life and then they decide to become more practicing, then it causes all kinds of controversy in the marriage, because now I'm not okay with you taking my son to church, right? Or I'm not okay with you taking my son to the masjid, right? There's conflict in that, and so it's just, I have not seen it as a recipe for a good marriage. Sometimes it does work, but at the same time, I don't recommend it. I really don't. But it's permissible. How do you convince our family to spend as little as possible for the wedding? Do you guys have that problem here too? Seriously? Let me tell you about my wedding. My wedding, alhamdulillah, mashallah, it was great because, so my mahar, my dowry was 100 grand. That's a lot, right? But it wasn't 100 grand in money, it was 100 grand as a chocolate bar. You guys know the chocolate bar, 100 grand? So you don't know it here. We have a chocolate bar called 100 grand. So my wife requested a 100 grand chocolate bar. So that was our mahar. And then at my wedding, we had about 1,300 people come to our wedding, alhamdulillah, with the food. And basically what I did, instead of getting like an expensive hall and things of that sort, I rented like 2 recreation centers that were close by, got the auditorium, right? The women had their own thing going on. I put female security guards that were armed, and I told them, if you see any man that doesn't look like this, cap him in the head, don't let him go. Right? So they had their party, we had our party, very simple, right? And at the end of the day, I actually doubled the amount of money that I put into the wedding. It was really cool. From gifts and stuff like that. I was like, we should get married more often. So I put in, I budgeted it, and I'll tell you, I put in my entire wedding with all those people, with food, with the dress, with everything was $6,000 US. I got $12,000 US in gifts. I was like, this is awesome. So anyways, here's my answer. Number one, it depends on the family. Okay? There's so many factors that go into that. Is the family paying for the wedding? Number two, and there's another factor, which is, what is the intention of the family? Right? Usually, unfortunately, we come from very, very, very shallow cultures. I can be insulting towards Desi and Arab culture. We have some of the most shallow cultures in the world, subhanAllah, especially when it comes to putting on a show and showing others up in terms of weddings and stuff like that. So now you've got $70,000 mahars, and you've got all 6-figure weddings and things of that sort. We always try to show each other up. And you should, I think, make it clear that you are not worried about people's perception of you. And I don't think you should be worried about that too. If you want to give me this money to start off my married life, all right, that's great. But we should not be putting this into a family, because the third thing, and this is something that's very, very important, it sets a very, very bad precedent. right? Because then all of your friends are expected to, all of your friends and family are expected to meet that level. So you're actually putting a hardship, and all of that contributes to something that I've personally been crying about for years, which is that we make the haram so easy and the halal so hard, right? You put so many obstacles to getting married that youth are just giving up and saying, you know what, forget marriage, I'll just worry about it whenever the time comes for that. So I think coming at them from that aspect, let's set a good example, let's be closer to the sunnah. And obviously it depends on their personality. So I mean, if they listen to an imam or a sheikh, or they listen to someone who's respectful, bring them into the picture. But I do think it's a very worthy cause, or something worthy to bring up. What should a sister do if she wants to get married but has no family to find her spouse? I think this is definitely a very, very, very crucial question. Number one, is it permissible for a sister to request a man in marriage? Yes, it is. Khadija radiallahu anha requested the Prophet ﷺ, and even though, as the scholars say, this took place before wahy, right? But it was done even afterwards, right? A woman can certainly request a man in marriage. Okay, she could approach him, she could ask him, but of course in a way that's appropriate. What is appropriate? Al-'ada muhakkama, it depends on your culture and your society, right? And as I'm finding out, British are pretty weird. Anyway, it's a joke. I know. I'm not an arrogant American, wallahi. But no, whatever the 'ada, whatever culture permits and things of that sort. But there are some practical matters. I don't know if the imams work in here. From a U.S. perspective, in the United States, the sisters will tell the imams, and the imams will try to do matchmaking, or telling a sister that knows other people in the community and things of that sort. But what I would say, if this sister, if this is a sister that's actually here, then inshallah ta'ala, talk to me afterwards, or I'll give you my email address. You can email me inshallah ta'ala. I also have a lot of brothers and things of that sort. So I'll try to do my part as the imam matchmaker and things of that sort.
Does any of the brothers have any questions? No questions from the brothers? You sure? That's okay. Sisters are more attentive, aren't they?
My question is it permissible for a sister to refuse a marriage proposal if the brother approached her directly over the phone? I could, if I see a brother walk out really, really angrily, then I know that I really messed up and I dropped the ball with this answer. For the brothers, and I think if there was a more appropriate way to approach you, if there was a way to, I always say that, the best thing is to go through the family in the first place when you become interested. If that's possible to go through the family, that's the best thing. That way everyone is on the same page, because what happens sometimes is that the brother and the sister really hit it off, and then afterwards it turns out that the families don't like each other. And people kind of downplay how important that is. Is it permissible for, sometimes in some situations, yes. Right, to get married without the parents' approval. But it's not smart, and it brings a lot of tension into the house and things of that sort, right? So if there is a more appropriate way, then people should take the more appropriate way, which is to go through the family and things of that sort, to make it, something that's at least that everyone's on the same page with. But can you marry that person? You can marry that person. So whoever you are, I've got your back, right? You can marry that person, but I would say don't let it continue. Don't let it continue over the phone, right? Until everyone is on the same page. Okay, basically, how should two people get to know each other? Emails, home visits, phone calls, question. So anyway, how do we avoid khalwa in each mode? I did not say that it's not permissible for people to talk on the phone, okay? But it should not be done in a way, and khalwa is basically, what it leads to is that two people feel comfortable with one another, and then they think that they're all alone, and once they realize that they're all alone, sometimes things can get inappropriate. So for example, it's permissible for a man and a woman to talk, together, sitting in a room, for example, where the door is open, right? So that they know that it wouldn't get too inappropriate or things of that sort, where families walking around. It does not necessarily mean that, I have to sit right between mom and dad and you have to sit right between mom and dad too. Let's have it. It's like, so what's your favorite color? That's going to be incredibly awkward. No, so phone calls are fine, right? But I would say, even when you do phone calls, I'm telling you personally, this is as practical as it gets. What I always recommend, I say, fine, phone calls are fine, but make sure that, for example, it's somewhere where it's, if it's on a landline, for example, that one phone is accessible to other people. Just, if someone could pick up and listen, that way that'll keep you in check, right? Or your emails have a third party, even if that third party is not your parents, because that could be awkward, like a friend that you might have. And, the sister might have a friend, or and I'd recommend that it's a sister, not a brother, right? Someone who's in on that conversation. This is what I personally recommend. Is it permissible without those things to talk and be to the point? Yes, it is. It is. But I would say it's better for the sake of your deen, for the sake of your spirituality, and for the sake of preserving barakah, to have a third person involved, right? To have someone that can monitor, right? Because let me put it to you this way. If you are insistent upon deleting the conversation after it happens and making sure that no one else sees, then that's probably because there was something that was inappropriate in that conversation, right? So that's just a way that I feel like is more pure for both.
Plenty more.
So do I need to speed up the...
No, sir. You have to place the 9.
Mashallah. All right. How can you make a relationship how can you make a relationship halal before marriage? The Prophet ﷺ said, I do not see anything more appropriate for two people who love each other than marriage. So does love before marriage, can it exist? Yes, but love for the right reasons. Right? So you might love a person for their deen and things of that sort, and you might desire that person. So because of that, you go and pursue marriage. And I'm not contradicting what I said earlier, what's infatuation, because what I was talking about is that two people engage in a haram relationship, right? And then they think they're in love, and then they go try to pursue the marriage route, right? But there could be certain characteristics that catches you about another person, things of that sort, an attribute. So I guess that as far as making a relationship halal, again, going through the right mediums, going through the right modes, being able to talk, but in a way that there's always a third party there, right? So the same answer to the other question, basically.
Chef, before we go to the next question, there's a question that popped up, I think at least 5 times now. How many can a man marry at one time? I'm sick of looking at it now.
My question is, are the brothers sending in those questions, or are the sisters sending in those questions? So I'm going to answer the question with a question.
He's blaming me.
You're talking about polygamy, the concept of polygamy, or are you talking about
Yeah.
at one night?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Seriously? So how does that work? Like you got a morning wedding and then you like hit an alarm and you go to an afternoon wedding? Are you sure that's what the question means? If you want to save your head, then I would suggest you marry only one at a time. You don't want to ruin someone's very, very, very special moment. Yeah.
So you don't advise it?
No, not at all. I can go back to my normal people question.
No more about it.
Oh, look, this is here. Can you get married to 4 women in one night? So maybe we Americans are quite a bit more civilized. All right. I lost my train of thought. How can one deal with parents being involved in their marriage without coming across rude? Being a newlywed, I'm finding a little hard dealing with my in-laws, mother-in-law. I love and respect her as my mother, but would want space and privacy without any issues. I don't know if there's something more. I absolutely agree.